We need a cold open, Katie.
Cold open. Okay.
A charming, facilitate a parasocial relationship.
Facilitate a parasocial relationship. Okay. Do you know what I think is really cool about libraries?
What? Other than...
They're free?
Yeah, I think that libraries are really cool because they're free. And you can get all kinds of books there, and you can try them for free, no risk. It'd be cool if we had something like that for video games. Don't you think?
There's something like that for audiobooks. I know you're trying to get us on topic, but I have recently discovered Libby, and Libby is awesome. If you have not if you have not downloaded Libby, do you know what Libby is?
I can figure it out based on context clues.
Yeah, so you can borrow free audiobooks digitally from your library.
And there's a library in Florida that lets anybody sign up for it. So you don't have to be a resident. So you could be signed up for the county that you actually live in and this library in Florida and have double the library options.
I don't know how useful that is. It is
useful because sometimes you don't, like, some libraries won't have some things and other libraries will.
That's true.
I also just want to say, I feel like if you pitched the idea for a library, like, today, people would be like, are you insane? We're just going to give people, like, books for free.
But how do we make money?
Yeah, but how do we make money? And you're like, it's going to be a social service. And they're going to be like, what?
Wait, we're going to just give knowledge to the people for free? Are you out of your mind? All right. And on that note, welcome to Overthinking Games, a podcast that is about video games and what they can teach us and not about libraries. My name is Katie, and I am joined by my two co-hosts.
Dempsey? I got on at that time. Dempsey?
And Seth. Okay, great. This week we are going to be talking about video game preservation. But first, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. So what have we been playing, Seth?
I've been playing so much. I feel like for the past few weeks, I've just kind of been like, I haven't really been playing anything. So I decided to sit down and actually play some stuff. So a lot. Actually, I'm going to have to look back at my Steam library really quickly. Okay, so I played... Oh my gosh, I played so much stuff. Okay, so there's this... So I play a lot of Warhammer 40,000. It's like a tabletop, paint little miniature soldiers game. So my favorite faction has an XCOM style game that I was playing. Ton of fun. I really enjoy that. It's cool to see my favorite faction in video game form. I played a demo of a game.
What is the game's name?
It is called Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Demon Hunters.
Nerd.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
I feel like Warhammer always has the longest name.
That's correct, yes. Anyway, so I played that. I played another game called Rogue Command. It's a demo for a game. It's kind of like a mix of a roguelite and a real-time strategy game, sort of like StarCraft-esque. It's pretty fun. It's a weird to have an RTS game that has those roguelite mechanics, but it's a ton of fun, and I'm sort of really interested to keep up with that demo and see how that game is eventually going to come out. I think it's going to be pretty up my style. Katie and I played some cooperative Slay the Spire earlier this week, which was a ton of fun.
That was fun.
I kind of have a little too much Slay the Spire knowledge, so I may have carried us.
Well, we got to the final boss, the final, and I died, and Seth won. So that tells you what you need to know.
Yeah, and it's the cooperative, so it gets the final boss double HP, and I still just kind of smashed it.
Soloed it.
Yeah, I had a kind of crazy build. And then a game that I discovered recently is a game called Backpack Battles, which if you're not on the Backpack Battles train, it's a demo on Steam. You got to play some Backpack Battles. It's a, how do you describe it? It's like an auto battler, so kind of like Teamfight Tactics or Super Auto Pets, where you just kind of set up your inventory and then you just kind of let the game go and then it auto fights the other person. It is so good. It is so good. It's so much fun. It has a ranked mode despite the fact that it's a demo. So it's free to play. You could just download it right now. Very small game. And you're going to play it one time and you're going to be like, I get it. Let's go. So highly recommend giving it a shot.
I don't understand auto battlers. It sounds like a game that you don't play.
That's Cookie Clicker. That's a game that you don't play. This, like, you play the fun part, and then you just let the characters go fight each other. You get to do the strategy part.
So the fun is the setup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I played a lot this week, and I was pretty happy about that. There's still a few games I need to play. So I need to play Armored Core, blah, blah, blah. Waiting for the Elden Ring DLC to come out.
Oh.
Hopefully before I die. Listen, that game's been out for like 2 years. We're closing it on, and then they announced the DLC, and then it has been radio silent. So it'll come out one of these days. They're just gonna be like, "Hey, we're dropping it next Tuesday," and we're gonna be like, "What?" And then I'm gonna have to like take a day off of work. So
do you have to buy it, or is it gonna be free?
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to buy it. It's gonna be like the best $30 I've ever
Christmas
spent
purchases.
in my life. Can't wait. Dempsey, what have you been playing this week?
Very cool.
I've been throwing eggs at Team Cherry's house, trying to get them to release Silksong.
Fair enough.
I've heard that bullying is how you get what you want, so keep trying.
Yeah. No, what got me thinking about that is I think like Xbox is going to have a showcase, or like the Game Awards are like, we have some big announcements. And I cannot tell you how disinterested I am unless it's Silksong. And so besides, I have been playing a lot of Balloon Tower Defense 5 on my iPad, and I finally got the achievement that is having 200 towers.
5 or 6?
And if you... 5 is 6.
Okay.
Balloon Tower Defense 6. Yes. Balloon Tower Defense 6. And I finally got the achievement that is having 200 towers in your inventory at once. And if you have ever played Balloon Tower Defense 6, you know that's like quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So that makes me feel good. I like downloaded Alan Wake and also Little Nightmares 2, thinking like, oh, these are like appropriately spooky fall games, kind of like dreary. And instead I have been playing a game called Yoku's Island Express, which I think I talked about like several months ago and then have not talked about since. And then now I'm coming back to.
It sounds really familiar.
It's a pinball platformer. And it like is, in my opinion, is up there with like Celeste and Super Mario World on like how enjoyable this platforming experience is, like playing pinball. It's really good.
Nice.
Like, and there's like, it's also a little bit like a Metroidvania. It's like a Metroidvania pinball platformer. It's which is a very strange combination, but yeah, it's like really satisfying, very like it's very light, it's not too stressful, it's not too difficult, very meditative. And I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. I don't think I will ever stop playing that game. I think it's crazy that game came out the same year as like Tears of the Kingdom and Spider-Man for PS5. Like this year has been like a really like a generation big year for like really good games, I think. Like, I don't know, maybe every year is, I just don't notice. I guess last year we got Elden Ring and God of War.
So true.
That's also that's also like a fair, but like, yeah, I just have been like thrashing Baldur's Gate. Every time I go on Twitter, I see like a new, deeper mechanic that I want to interact with. I really want to do mods. They scare me. I only have a Steam Deck. But every single mod on Baldur's Gate, like having the Artificer class and all that stuff, it looks very fun. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. Katie, what have you been playing?
Nice. I've also been playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Where are you?
I'm really slow. I'm bad at games.
No, it's okay. 100 hours in the first act, it's appropriate. It's good.
Okay, good. Because I just got to the part where, I don't think it's a spoiler, it's the quest you get in the very beginning. I found the Githyanki
If you want to
Kresh.
play, you've played it. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. So I found the Githyanki Kresh, but I haven't talked to them yet because I never have Lae'zel in my party because I think she's a raging bitch and I like the other characters more. Seth's shaking his head at me. So I haven't done that part, but I'm trying to find Karlach with Will. and I had to fight these gnolls, which are like horrifying hyena monsters that rip out of the abdomen of hyenas. And it was such a hard fight. Like, I'm playing on the like medium level, the in-between level, and I feel like I need to be on Daddy Can I Play, because every time I face these guys, they just completely decimate me. So now I had to try. I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to like flank and sneak and get them first. And so I've been strategizing, but it's been fun.
Yeah, that fight is really good because it has levels. And so Astarion gets like bonuses for being up high. And so if you can like, yeah, so a lot of the fights benefit from your range attackers being high, because then they get advantage to hit.
Advantage, and then he can do sneak attack.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. He becomes useful.
I love Astarion. I
do?
like him a lot. I do. I think I'm not going to let him feed on me. I did one time, but, one time. I'm not going to continue to let him do that. But I do find him to be a very interesting character. And I like his voice actor a lot. So
gotcha.
I keep him. I keep Will. No, I only have Will because I'm doing Karlach. I usually have Gale, Shadowheart. I almost call her Shadow Bay. That's what I call her. Shadowheart, Gale, and Astarion.
I kicked Astarion out of my party.
No. Who do you have instead?
It's me, Halzine. Shadowheart met an untimely demise.
No.
Yeah. And
you didn't
in a way.
reload?
So there's story implications.
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Yeah, it was like one of the most heartbreaking moments I've ever played in a video game. And then there was the reload. And so like I had this like Undertale style like panic attack where I'm like, do I respect the narrative the game is going, or do I like reload and none of that has any meaning at all? And so
you kept it?
Yes, I did. So I have Will, Karlach, and Hasling. I haven't
met either of those two others, so I will find
You haven't met Hasling yet? He's the bear that you can do adult activities with.
Ugh. Okay.
Anyways.
No, have not met him yet. Keep my eyes peeled. Jesus.
He's a druid that turns into a bear.
Oh,
it's fine. He's a druid, and he turns into a bear, and you can have.
Oh, he's the guy I'm looking for. I'm looking for him right now.
Yes, and yeah.
Yes, I'm looking for him. Okay, so I can.
He's the guy in the goblin.
He can join your party.
Mm-hmm.
You can romance him. And my character is a druid, so he likes my character.
So he likes you already. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. I put it together now. Yeah. So, so I've been playing Baldur's Gate, and that's kind of my I have 2 phases of my bedtime gaming routine. I go up to bed, and you guys get to hear my wonderful routine. You go to bed at 8:00, and you play Baldur's Gate in bed in the dark on your Steam Deck, and it's great until about 9:30, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm really tired. I should play Slay the Spire. And so then you close Baldur's Gate and you go to Slay the Spire until around 10 o'clock, and then you go to sleep. So that's what I've been doing this week. I'm trying to think if I've played anything else. I haven't really. I've been buying games, but I haven't been playing new games. So that's pretty much what I've been playing this week. So yeah. So for our topic this week, to segue, I guess I could have segued with a game I've played slightly. Since this week we're talking about preservation, I actually did get a game that I played a little bit, and it's called Bubsy. It's like Bubsy and the Furred Kind or something. And it's like this old Super Nintendo game. It's a platformer. You play as a bobcat. And I played it when I was a kid. You're Bubsy the bobcat. And you are trying to collect. The whole point of the game is to collect all of the yarn balls because you're a cat. And the bad guys are aliens, which is the furred kind. like the third kind. And they throw cheese wheels at you, and the cheese wheels kill you.
Thank you for explaining the pun.
You're welcome.
It's helpful.
So it's a platformer. You're collecting all of the yarn balls, which are kind of like coins in Mario. And there's aliens, and they are throwing cheese wheels at you. I don't know where that comes from.
It's because the moon's made of cheese. Wheels. They're aliens. The moon's made of cheese.
Oh my god, I think you're right.
Right. That's a joke that I would make in my head.
That's probably true. But I looked up this game because I was specifically thinking about this topic this week, and thinking about what games had I played that I couldn't access anymore. And I had wanted to play Bubsy for years because, like I said, I grew up playing it. It was my favorite Super Nintendo game that nobody's ever heard of. I think it must have been a cult classic, or at least a classic in my house. Maybe it's a terrible game and we just liked it. But I couldn't play it because I couldn't find it anywhere. And so I just randomly, I was like, oh, that's going to be my game that I talk about that I've never been able to find. But I was like, I should look it up first. And I looked it up and it was available on Steam. And now as a Steam Deck owner, I was able to play it. So that was super cool that this game that I grew up with was available. And it looks exactly the same way, and the sound is the same, and even the controllers feel really similar to how it felt on Super Nintendo. So I thought that was cool. So my question to just sort of introduce the topic, like an icebreaker, is, are there any games that you've played, maybe growing up or in the past, that you can't access anymore?
And so I think, a lot of GameCube games that I like pretty much all my GameCube library. Like I love the Chronicles of Narnia video game adaptation. Have you ever played that?
No.
Can't say I have.
So the Chronicles of Narnia movie had a video game adaptation where you get to like throw snowballs at wolves and stuff like that. You get to be like. Mm-hmm. It's a party based game where each of the kids has like special abilities or whatever. Susan has a bow. Lucy's your healer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Peter has a sword.
Has a sword, and Edmund's a coward, so he never fights.
Yes. And so, but no, like most of like everything on the GameCube, basically, like Donkey Kong. Jungle Beat. You ever played that?
Good game.
Donkey Kong. It's 10 out of 10 game. Fantastic. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat is an interesting example of game preservation because you need really specific peripherals to play that game. And so even if you have the game, but if you don't have the very specific peripherals, you can't really experience that game anymore. And so,
do you need a set of Donkey Konga bongos? I have two.
No, I have a set.
Oh, okay. No. I'm actually trying to sell them, so listen if you're
I'm feeling like the least nerdy of the three right now.
So instead of a GameCube controller, you play by having bongos, and it's and it's a platformer. I think I have a love for non-traditional platformers.
I think you have a love for games that aren't actually games.
No, it's really fun. It's very fun. But I think there's all the time that I'm looking for games that don't exist, especially anything like pre-PS3. Pretty much every game from my childhood, even like really big games like Mario Kart Double Dash, is pretty expensive to get a used copy of, and there's no legitimate way to play that. And that was like a flagship title. Like there's not many more, games that were bigger for the GameCube than the Mario Kart game. So pretty much everything.
Interesting. What about you, Seth?
Yeah, I'll even add on, and I think Dempsey's a few years older than I am, but I think we're both sort of in the GameCube generation. Because for me, it's a lot of the same way, and we're sort of lucky with the GameCube that it has really good emulation software. Dolphin's a fantastic tool, and some of my favorite games, even from my childhood, is stuff like Super Smash Bros. Melee, which is like the best fighting game of all time. Or like Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, which is getting a remake, but like I've extensively played through like the Dolphin emulator. So I guess that's less than legitimate means, but it's the same thing. Like GameCube games are like obnoxiously expensive. I'm actually trying to sell some off to make some money for some other hobbies, but because all those games that I want to play, I've just played through, emulation and everything. Otherwise, I think I haven't really run into too many issues. Like another one of my favorite games is the Command and Conquer series, but you can still get those through like the Origin web store. But there is an interesting issue there where like the networking software for that game was written for computers in the 2000s, so you just like can't play online anymore. Or you can't even play like peer-to-peer like LAN because it's still trying to use like old protocols that don't even exist on modern Windows. So it's interesting how even maybe within a game, some of the functionality of that game doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Another good example of this is the sort of DS generation Pokemon games, because the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection for the DS and the Wii shut down a while ago. So there's a lot of like the online features of some of the DS era Pokemon games that you just can't access anymore. Like you can't access the Global Trades service or Global Trade Center anymore, which was a pretty core part of my experience of playing those like mid-gen Pokemon games. So it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and for like the DS, like they're like one of so there's a Fire Emblem game that there was like 3 versions of this game. And one of the versions was an online only version. And like when the DS store went down, like now even if you want to buy it used or secondhand, it just doesn't exist anymore at all. You have to like either emulate it or find a DS that already has it downloaded.
Jeez, that's crazy. So I don't know much about emulation, having been a console person for my whole adult life. So I don't really know how emulation works. Can you get like any game on emulation? Like
pretty much.
If you have
pretty much.
If you have the ROMs or the files or whatever they're called, yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. The reason that I thought to talk about this topic was because my husband plays FIFA, which is a soccer game simulator, and it's been FIFA since what?
Just calling it a simulator is funny, but I guess it is. It's a soccer game simulator.
It's a soccer game simulator, like just like it's like a sports game. You play like all the people on the field, and you like build your team.
I was going to say, I like the idea of a soccer game simulator, as in, like, it's a simulator for, like, a soccer video game. Do you know what I mean?
No,
it's like a layer. It's like a layer of abstraction.
A simulator
deeper.
Of a simulator, right?
Yeah. That's what
it's simulator inception is what it is. So, when they started in '93, it was kind of like pretty niche. Like it was like the first or one of the first soccer game video games that had been made. And EA
93
had
is so long ago. I cannot imagine like even existing in 1993.
Oh my god. How did I know? I was 1 year old. I don't remember when it came out, okay? Lord.
There was like another 5 years until I would be born. At least.
It's crazy.
Anyway, so when they started, they teamed up with FIFA, which is like the real world like soccer organization. I forget what it stands for. It's like something football association or something like that. And International Football Association or something like that. But basically,
we can
like
Google this. This is Googleable.
Yeah, I'm moving on. So they used FIFA as their helmsman, like to give them some credence and to get people who knew about FIFA, the actual soccer thing, to try the game out, right? And so FIFA, the company, was then getting like royalties or whatever for using the game. So fast forward now to 2023, and the new game was coming out, and all of a sudden it's called FC 23 instead of FIFA 23 because they had EA had this falling out with FIFA over how much FIFA wanted, how much money they wanted, and EA didn't want to pay them. And so instead of paying FIFA more money, they made a break with them completely, and they're not allowed to use the name anymore, which is why it's FC 23 or 24 rather. But then what they did was they took all of the games that had FIFA in the name and took them off of the online stores. So it's delisted now, and you can't even buy them anymore. And I guess you could probably emulate, but they're not supporting the servers anymore. So unless you could play solo, but you couldn't play online at all. And I just thought it was insane that this company could take a 20-year history of this game and just completely wipe it off the map to support their bottom line. Like, I thought that was really concerning, and it just started making me think about, like, how many games are we losing over the years because of like the way these corporations are handling things. And it made me wonder, like, is video game preservation more challenging or more limited than other forms of media? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think video games, I mean, other than like architecture, might be like one of the most complicated forms of art to preserve.
Archive.
Archive. Simply because it's not really considered an art form. It's considered more of like a product. And so there's a lot of protections that go away when kind of governments don't consider there to be a lot of like cultural capital in that art form. So like there's no like public institutions that are dedicated to the preservation of these things. And so I think like me, I think video games, especially now that they're like all digital, and like Alan Wake 2, for example, is like a single player like adventure game, normally like the kind of game that you would be able to get physically, and it does not have a physical copy. So it's not just like Fortnite and stuff like that. It doesn't have physical copies, but now like a lot of like what I would consider like a regular video game, like a video game in like the classic sense, are just all going. There's no physical copies of them. And so, yeah. Then
well,
you
I was going to say something just to add on to what Dempsey is saying is, I think one of the limitations of digital media is you need a way to be able to read it. It's not like a book, like a physical piece of media where, you could just pick it up and open it up and read it. Digital formats change constantly. So, a file that's readable today might be incredibly difficult to read in 30 years. Just due to how like computers have changed, or how like the computer languages have changed, or like the file formats in common usage change. And I think that presents a pretty significant issue for like digital only archival, where, if you have a game, and I think even if a game comes in a physical format in the form of something like a cartridge or something, you still need like an N64 to play an N64 game. Unless if you like rip a ROM of it and it's available somehow. But if you're interested in the original way that was published, I think that's a lot more difficult because it's computer based versus, like a lot of libraries have old newspapers on microfilm from the past like 70, 80 years. But in theory, you don't need a super complicated device in order to find out what's on a microfilm. Whereas for something like the N64, down the line, that would be something that's impossible to get the files off of without, the software that was needed at the time. So that's like one of my concerns for long-term digital archival is if things aren't just like available in newer file formats, what are you going to do?
I've thought about that too, because some people, like, I've heard people who say, well, I only buy physical because I want to like own my copy versus like a digital one where if it gets unlisted or something, maybe you'll lose access to it. For instance, like if you buy a movie off of Prime Video and Prime Video goes bust, what happens to the movie that you own? Is it just gone? So I've realized like we don't really own any of the things that we buy digitally. It's more of a long-term lease.
Yeah. Isn't it you just own like a license technically?
You own a license to use it. Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy to think about how much money I've put into Steam games, that Steam's going to close down one day and I'm just going to lose all of those games.
Hundreds of games. Yeah, exactly. It's really alarming. But if you buy physical only, like, so in my house, in my basement somewhere, I have an ancient Super Nintendo that I've had since I was a small kid, since like they probably had it before I was born. My parents. And even as a child, there was the plug. We had a dog, and the dog yanked the plug out of the wall. And ever since that happened, there's a short in the wire. And so my whole life, you always had to have the wire bent just so underneath the device to make it work, right? And so it still works theoretically. But even if I could bend the wire just so to make it work, my TV wouldn't doesn't have any plugs for what the Super Nintendo needs. So you'd have to get adapters, and it's like the barrier to using that technology just keeps getting higher and higher, and things break down.
I just sort of, Katie, I was listening to you, but I want to relate back to the thing I was talking about earlier. This is something that actually comes up in terms of like the new CSGO game that came out, because you have people who have like real money in things like CSGO weapon skins and CSGO like gloves or whatever. I don't play the game.
Like the aesthetic stuff?
The aesthetic stuff. And it has like real value to it because Steam has a market where they trade those items. But there's nothing preventing Valve from just saying, hey, we're going to close down this game and all of the money that you've put into this stuff is now junk. So that's sort of more of a problem with like digital products versus like physical products, a little bit of what you were talking about earlier. But I think it does, it's property that I technically own that, well, I have like a license to own it, but, just because it's in this digital format that has no real world meaning, when that company goes bankrupt or, they no longer offer their service, that's something that I own that's now no longer available.
Mm-hmm. That's what happened with Warzone. Activision's or whoever it was at the time, like when they made Warzone for Call of Duty, you could buy skins and you could buy like bundles and get different kinds of like gun blueprints and stuff like with your real money. And when they closed Warzone, like it was a game of service, like they closed it down so that they could have the new Warzone 2 come out. Like all of my cute, like I had this super cute Domino skin. She had like a cute like mohawk and unicorns and tie-dye, and I loved her. And it's gone. I paid like $15 for that. I can admit it. It was a free game, okay? But now it's gone. Like the money that I put into that is just gone. And you go to the new game and they're like doing it again. And now the new Call of Duty is going to come out and they're going to do it again. So you're putting in this money. It's the ultimate bait and switch. Like you're putting all this money in and then they just say, okay, now it's gone. It's wild. So my question is, thinking about that, why? So movies are made for money, right? And video games are made for money. So I know it sounds, don't laugh at me. I'm getting there. So
I'm just thinking about how Dempsey would reply to movies are made for money.
Well, generally speaking, like movies that are made in Hollywood are like made for money. Why is it so much easier to preserve? Like, why do people think, of course you're going to preserve film? And we have films from like as far back as we have film, basically. Like, but with the video games, they're just like, okay, it can go into the ether.
So with film, there's something, and this is like a pseudo legal term, but it's definitely used in like legal proceedings, called cultural significance. And like you can get away with otherwise illegal content if you have something that is quote unquote culturally significant. Like there is like real legal protections that come with cultural significance. There's examples of what that means that I don't want to talk about on this podcast because I think they would make us all uncomfortable to talk about. But like what legal protections that you can get from society viewing you as valuable, it can like it does so much to protect that media. And then and that happens also in like terms of like preservation against copyright status. And so like if something is considered like legally culturally significant, it's easier to get funding for that preservation, because like cultural significance is written into like the laws of archiving. Like the Library of Congress, when they get books, they get to decide if it's culturally significant or not. And then there are legal protections that come with that cultural significance. And I just don't think video games are considered culturally significant. And so like, and it's a little bit because people that make the biggest games in the world do not call them art. Like Nintendo, the Mario guy, the guy who made Mario, the very famous, what's his?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I'm looking it up.
Is it Miyamoto?
I think it's Miyamoto.
Yes, it is.
So Miyamoto's like
Miyamoto.
It's a Shigeru Miyamoto. So Miyamoto's like, he's on record saying that Mario is not art. Mario is a product. And that's the stance that Nintendo has to take in order to protect their IP. Because if they were to say that this is significantly, this has cultural significance to us as a society, then they would get like elements of that, of like, you know, it wouldn't just be their IP anymore. It would a little bit be society's IP. And so I think video game, the copyright holders have a vested interest in saying that video games are not art. That video games are not an art form. And
whereas
like
people say that movies are, like, they are saying it's art.
Yes. And there's a lot less reason, like from like a business standpoint of reason for video games to be made. Like I'm trying to think of an example that's not like doesn't make us feel uncomfortable. It's like in documentaries, a lot of times you can film people without their permission if your documentary is good enough. Like a lot of times you can bring cameras into place where you're not legally allowed to bring cameras if your documentary is good enough. And so if you are a producer who like has a piece of work that is being challenged in court because the people in the documentary don't like how they were captured, it's in like the copyright holders of the documentary's best interest to argue that it is art. But in video games, I think there's a lot less content that could be legally questionable. So like they don't have that impetus to argue for the cultural significance, if that makes any sense.
So its controversialness is part of what makes it like classed as art almost?
For films, the controversialness act as a reason for the rights holders to defend that it's art. There was a film called Cuties, which is an example of this. That have you heard of Cuties? Mm-hmm. So Cuties was a film bought by Netflix that had a lot of states prosecutions go after it for being indecent and have illegal material in it. And Netflix was like, no, this is culturally significant art made by a great art filmmaker. And so they were able to continue to profit off of that film and get their return back off of that production. I mean, it's very, I think, video games just don't have to make that argument very often. Like you can be extremely gory or extremely whatever in a video game. And because it's not real people, a lot of times, like, I don't know, like maybe if Edward Snowden leaked government documents in the form of a video game that was then published by a major video game publishing, like then they would feel that they would need to protect video game status as an art. But I just don't see like a monetary reason for them to.
Interesting. Something that I thought was interesting that I learned about when I was looking into this topic was public domain. And I learned that films go into the public domain. So films before 1964 are all public domain, as far as I can tell, from what I read. Maybe I'm wrong. But that you have to, if you don't renew your copyright after 28 years, then it falls into the public domain. And yeah, are you looking it up, Dempsey? Okay, good, because I might be talking out of my ass, but that's how I understood the thing I read. But for video games, the copyright lasts the life of the creator plus 70 years, or if it's work for hire, like somebody's making the new Call of Duty for Activision, it's 95 years from the date of publication or 120 years for the date of creation, whichever comes first. So Mario is going to be copyrighted either for 120 years from the time that it was ever created or 95 years from the date of the last publication. So none of us are going to be alive when these games come out like into public domain. And they're just, if these companies decide that they want to take all of FIFA offline because it hurts their bottom line to use the name, like none of us, like it'll never get into the public domain in a timely enough manner to be preserved. It's just going to be lost.
Well, I think this is the whole issue of public domain is like, I think really interesting. And I know a little bit about it because I was doing some research a while back, mainly because I was curious if there was like a public domain thing I could just like buy, just some old like company logo to just own because it'd be funny.
A thrift store. Yeah. What's that thing that they tried to sell, like where you would have pay $100,000 to the little logo, and what's that called?
Anyway, but a lot of the issues for copyright I know revolve around like Disney and like the properties that they own and stuff. But I think it's just an issue with like the way that stuff goes into public domain right now in general, because if you wait like 90 years after something gets published, like it's just not going to be culturally significant anymore at all. Like, how is something that was originally published like 100 years ago, with the exception of like the 1 in a million, piece of art.
Sherlock Holmes, Frankenstein.
Right. Like the
literature,
internationally recognized like pieces of literature or whatever else. Like, how is anything else supposed to go into like public domain in a fashion that makes it like usable for the rest of everybody else who exists on the dang planet? Like that, I think that's going to be frustrating with works like, I don't know, like Lord of the Rings, that I think probably feasibly at this point in their life cycle should probably be in the public domain. I mean, Tolkien wrote them back in the we're closing 30s? In like 80. Yeah, he wrote them
40s.
Wrote them a long time ago, but I mean, they're still like property of the Tolkien like estate, which is crazy.
Because
I mean,
I wonder
clearly
if that's because
like
they keep renewing it.
Yeah, but they're clearly like incredibly culturally significant pieces of media and like pieces of literature. It's like influential for like all modern fantasy.
I feel like the problem that we run into a bit with video game preservation is that because games are like in the grand scheme of things relatively new to the scene, they haven't been around long enough to see how did earlier works then influence much later works. The way that we see, you see the hero's journey from the Odyssey. It's like that's like the template right there for a very specific form of like plot in literature. And you see it to this day in different forms. But I think that with video games, they haven't been around long enough yet to be able to see that impact. And because of the things like you were saying, Seth, where the technology deteriorates, for one thing, it deteriorates so quickly and we're progressing so quickly that by the time we would be able to see its cultural relevance, it's already lost.
I mean, I would even make a case that I think you can make, we talk about something like a roguelite, right? Like it's called a roguelite because there's a game called Rogue that these games are based off of, like, or like Metroidvanias, right? Like it's just a combination of Metroid and Castlevania. Like, I think games show pretty clear like genre-based influences. But I think your main point of like, they're just such new pieces of media that maybe they just haven't reached the point where it's considered significant enough. Which I find kind of crazy. Like, I mean, I guess we're a little biased because we're a video game podcast, but
right.
I feel like video games are like a new form of media in the way that I don't know if in the way that like movies are when they originally came out, but The idea that like you have this piece of media that you can interact with seems crazy to me.
Yeah, video games are bigger than all other entertainment industries combined. So that includes music, film, television. Video games kind of dwarf all other entertainment.
Yeah, and I think we might be starting to see a shift towards that, towards valuing it in the same way that we do other forms of art. Because starting in 2019, video games were included in the BAFTA awards, which, it's really cool. And I'm just looking to see, in 2019, Yoku's Island Express was on the list.
It's a good game.
Yeah. And so was God of War 2018.
Also a good game.
And Return of the Obra Dinn. Dang, lots of really good things.
That's a good list.
Maybe every year is good for video games.
Maybe all of the years are good.
I think another reason why like video games I think are very important to consider how we preserve is because of how I think video games are very international. What is Seth doing?
I'm just looking at I'm looking at the BAFTA nominations and the award winners for 2023. They gave Vampire Survivors the best game award. Are they on crack?
Are you serious?
They gave it to Vampire Survivors over God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring. They gave Elden Ring the award for multiplayer. They're smoking something.
They gave Elden Ring the reward for multiplayer? That's like an insult to all other multiplayer games.
I know. Like, multiplayer is fun, but it's not that good.
That's like a direct insult. That's so funny.
They have a specific award for British game.
I also feel like putting Vampire Survivors as Game of the Year is a little bit of an insult to all other games. I think Vampire Survivors was incredible.
It's a fantastic game.
I think that's an insane choice, though.
I don't think it's like wild. Game of the Year.
I wonder what their criteria is. That's so interesting.
They all got high and picked whatever game was the most fun while
they're
high.
And they're like, the game we like to play while stoned. I can play this all night.
It's very, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's my gosh, that is funny.
I wonder if they have like community voting. It seems like community voting would result in that.
Maybe. I'm so curious.
Like, I think a lot of the people that were laughingly saying the Vampire Survivors for Game of the Year are the same people who are aware of the video game BAFTAs.
Like I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like that population might be a circle.
Yeah.
Like a circle Venn diagram. So
interesting. I would be so curious.
Like maybe people who really love Call of Duty don't follow the BAFTAs. Katie.
Huh. I'm old and uncultured. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that is so interesting. Who's the guy? Is it Hideo Kojima? And he's like, he definitely thinks all his games are art. Like, for sure. Doesn't he do, didn't he do Metal Gear Solid and then he did the walking one with Death Stranding?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
and I wonder, like, if maybe as, like, video game personalities get bigger, more people will see them as art so we can attach a narrative to it. I mean, for, like, that's how fine art gets a lot of its value is because we attach, like, a narrative of, like, oh, Rothko being, like, so bleak after World War II and there's nothing to paint, so it's just a red canvas. And, like, it's not like the red canvas is that good, but it's, like, the narrative, you know, like same thing with Van Gogh. It was, like, his letters between his books. Yeah. And so I wonder if, like, as video game developer personalities get bigger, they will be considered more of an art form. So as we have, like, the Kojimas and the, like, Neil Druckmann and Cory Burlog and, like, these, you know,
Miyazaki.
people that have, like, Miyazaki. I wonder if, you know, the meta narratives around them will kind of elevate them into cultural meaning. I have no idea, but maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, do you guys think, and I already know your answers, but I'd love to know, I want to hear your reasonings. Do you feel that less than legal methods of accessing games are acceptable for the preservation of video games? Thumbs up from
I think
Seth.
Yes.
they're necessary.
Okay.
I think they're more than acceptable. Like if that community was not as active, we would have lost a lot more games.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys think that there will come a time when those emulated games, like, I don't know exactly how to say it, but like basically that it will come back around to a point of like prominence where they're like, wow, we're so glad that this was saved and now we can like give it like a rebirth sort of situation?
That's already happening.
Is it?
One of my favorite sort of video game stories in general is the Smash Bros. Melee scene. Because once COVID hit, you can't like meet in person to play fighting games. And so one guy put in an incredible amount of work, and he came up with a program called Slippy, which is a way to play Smash Bros. Melee online, and is currently like widely used in the Smash Bros. Melee community. And you can now play a GameCube game like online on modern software because people like really put in the work to make that happen. So it's sort of like is the only thing that kept the Smash Bros. Melee scene alive over COVID. And I think it's a wonderful example of how like an old game, because people put in the effort to like archive it and actually like digitize it, has led to like a fairly thriving like fighting game community that actually managed to like stay on its feet even through like a global pandemic where they couldn't really play. Which I imagine can't be said for some other fighting game communities. I don't know a ton about the topic.
Yeah.
Don't mind the fact that like Nintendo just put out some like insane stuff about how to run tournaments, but that's what...
that is super cool.
I think, and like relying on community support to keep a game relevant, that's like Bethesda's whole business model. Like,
true, actually.
Like
we don't need to make a new Skyrim. You'll keep making content for us.
Yeah. Like, yeah, why should we fix our games when the community is going to do it for us? So I think communities are a lot more likely to treat video games as art than the companies that produce them. And I think, yeah, and I think that both the modding community and the emulation community are an example of that. I have a question.
Okay.
What, like, I think we are all kind of assuming that video game preservation is important, but like, why do you think video game preservation is important? Like, what's the point of caring about video game preservation?
I'd put it on this.
Oh,
go ahead, Seth.
Go.
I was going to say I'd put it on the same level as any other sort of preservation. I mean, I think there's a video I sent you guys just for the general audience. There's Tom Scott's an amazing creator, and he did a video where he went to the British archives, where I think they pretty much archive anything published in the UK, and they talked about the importance of archival and preservation, which is you just want these things that we have access to now to be available for people in the future, whether that's just for recreation or for research for the future or sort of like modern anthropology and archaeology. The idea that like the stuff that we get to regularly experience now might be culturally significant down the line. You don't know that right now. You don't know what's going to end up being culturally significant. So, you know, is Mario a character that's going to die out when Nintendo dies? Because all things come to an end. So, like, when Nintendo closes as a company, like, is Mario still going to be important? Or is Mario just going to, like, fade away as a thing of the past? We don't know until we get there. I think it's easy for us to imagine that, like, Mario is going to be important for, like, the foreseeable future. But I don't know. There's been plenty of great emperors throughout time who thought they would be important for the rest of human history, and they've long since been forgotten. So
that's true.
What ends up being culturally significant, who's going to be like the next Caligula or like Nero, or we don't know.
Yeah, that's really well said. I agree with that. Like we were saying, it's too early to tell what's going to be culturally relevant, and if we lose it now, we lose the opportunity to find out. And additionally, I feel like there are so many incredible stories that are being told, and I think it's a shame for stories to be lost. I think that as civilizations, like we are, like people want to share stories and we pass stories down. And I think stories tell us a lot about life in a certain era or in a certain place. And so to lose that, I think, is a shame, because those stories will never be told exactly the same way as they were told by that particular storyteller.
Even I think something useful to think about is, I think history classes often involve talking about like primary sources, where, you look back to like the original like letters that people wrote and like the documents that they wrote up. I think, like the original Mario Bros is that it's a primary source for the platformer genre. And I think we're just not far enough away from that yet to have that be relevant. Like if I tell you about a Mario game, you're going to be like, yeah, okay, I understand that. You probably understand the significance of like 1-1, like the original Mario level, and how that acts as like a tutorial. But like if I have grandkids who are into video games, they're going to be very far removed from the original Mario Bros. Yeah. And if they're interested in platformers, they might look back and say like, oh, like Mario Bros was like one of the original platformers, but it's a game that was 100 years ago, and they have no way to play it anymore because nobody ever bothered, or they only have like secondary sources for it. They have like videos of what it looked like, or people have recreated it, but they can't play it on like the original sort of console. So archiving that's important as a primary source for history.
I think that's what you just said there is one of the things I was thinking about with why it's so challenging to preserve video games like authentically, because like with a movie or a book, like with an old movie, you can watch like the talkies or whatever, the early films before they had talking. We can still watch it and it's relatively the same as it would have been in the time. But with video games, if you can't, you have to be able to interact with it as well as see it. So it's an output and an input. And I think if you don't experience it by playing it, then you're not having the same experience of the game. Yeah.
I do want to talk about the talkies a little bit.
Yeah.
If you have a chance, like a lot of like independent theaters will do stuff like this. If you have a chance to see silent films with a live orchestra, it's like makes silent films make so much more sense.
Okay.
Like I think like it just, yeah, because silent films like were originally a lot of times accompanied with live like if not orchestra, like just like band with like music. Some brass and some music, and like it just like I suggest people do that because that's an incredible experience. Okay, great, because I think that like sometimes I'm like, well, like what's the point? And also like how important does a video game have to be to deserve being preserved? Like I think like obviously like Mario deserves being preserved. Like most AAA games you can make an argument for should be preserved. But like, like I'll play like a 15-minute point and click adventure game on Steam that's made by one person. And like if we should put resources into like preserving that, like when I look up, all I see is the ceiling is like, that's like a 20-minute video game point and click made by like one person. And like, like I don't know if that game will be preserved or if there will be an energy to preserve that experience. I think that experience is worth being preserved, but like, do you have like a criteria on like what makes a game worthy of preservation?
I feel it's like one of those things that's like impossible to like quantify. It's probably like going to be a board of people who are like sitting. I don't know how you determine something is like culturally relevant or like significant in the first place for like existing media. But
I feel like it would be similar to how they probably decided that Vampire Survivors was the BAFTA Game of the Year. A bunch of people are going to be given a certain amount of like certain criteria, and then they all have to come to an understanding. I think it will end up being like necessarily subjective. For me, I think because there's a lot of like cool games that I think should be preserved that I don't want to play. Like
100%.
Sure.
Because quality of life improvements are a real thing. And I don't really feel the need to go back. Like I played Persona 5 Royal, and I don't really feel the need to go back and play Persona 3. Because I know that a lot of the quality of life changes that they made for Persona 5 made it a much more fun game to play. But I do feel that if something is like the progenitor of things to come, then that's something that's worth keeping so that you can see the evolution.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. All right. Well,
we're closing in on time, so
yeah, I think we did it.
It was a fun topic.
It was fun. Thank you guys. So thank you for listening to Overthinking Games, our podcast about what video games can teach us. We hope you had a good time with us. We had a good time. If you have any thoughts or suggestions or whatever, you can email us at our email that's in the show notes. You can find us on TikTok at Overthinking Games Podcast. And we'll catch you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
Before we say goodbye.
Not bye.
Oh, no. Well, hold on. One sec. Seth recently said, this is not a podcast about video games. And I think that's interesting that we're not a podcast about video games. Email in. Let us know if you think we are a video game podcast or if you think we are not a video game podcast.
And if we're not a video game podcast, what are we?
We're a podcast about what video games can teach us, not about video games.
Yeah, this is not a podcast about video games. It's a podcast about what video games can teach us. We talk about video games, but it's not about video games.
So it's not about video games and what they can teach us. It's about what video games can teach us.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Which is not really about the video games. It's really about
video games are a
else.
Conduit for talking about other things.
That's right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good work, team.